for the aggregate birth, right? For the aggregate birth. That was a major undertaking. So the other permissions are there, and obviously they're sifting through them, and we're getting them. So I'm sure the honorable member for Christchurch West would not wish to disappoint you, and therefore you can be assured that as part of the ongoing Ports Corporate Social Responsibility Program, that we will ensure that those facilities are built out in a way that all residents and visitors and other locals to the area, and in particular, so you can have your song down there, ensuring that the people are very happy and that they see the proud work that the Barbados Labour Party continues to do in your constituency of St. Michael Northwest, which butts and abounds St. Michael West Central, which is my constituency. And therefore, if we have to ensure that St. Michael Northwest remains squarely within the purview of the Barbados Labour Party, it falls to us to ensure that we maintain our capital expansion program in that area. I hope I have been worthy of your question and you are deserving of my response, sir.
Well said, Minister. I endorse that. Thank you.
Honorable Member for St. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Growing up as a child, we will always hear that tourism is our business, and a lot was said here last week about community tourism. And firstly, let me also thank your ministry because you've done a significant
Honorable
amount.
Member, just go a little closer to the mic.
Let me just first thank your ministry for the work they have done, certainly in my constituency where there's evidence of community involvement. But I think if tourism is to truly be our business, there should be more involvement. And I just want to make a suggestion before I ask my questions. I believe that in every parish in this country, there's some unique experience that can be enhanced, can be packaged, and can be presented to not only tourists, but locals alike. Now, if I'm to use the example of St. Andrew, where we took a cultural event, crab night. It was basically just a few guys going into the bush and catching crabs and cooking them under a tree. And we have transformed that event with the help of the BTMI into an event that is now a national event that people look forward to, that tourists call every year asking as to when the date is. Looking forward to that event every single August. I believe that in other parishes, right across Barbados, there's something, whether it be geographical or cultural, that can be repackaged and presented and sold in that very same way. But we have to find them. And perhaps it may require a competition of sorts or something of that nature, so that persons will know that the support is there for the ministry if they are to come forward with a proposal, that they can get that support and that help from the ministry to further advance their community project. My question, however, has to do with the whole concept of making tourism more meaningful for the visitor, and more specifically to signage. I think I would have asked a couple years ago where we are in signage. In my ministry, we are about to embark on a national signage program because we understand the importance of signage to the local population. But I believe it's even more important for persons coming here that if they're to have a meaningful experience, that there's adequate signage available right across the island. So I want to know where we are in terms of enhancing our signage and what role, if any, is technology, perhaps AI technology, what role that may play in the enhancement of not only the signage for tourists, but enhancement of the offerings, the product that we are developing for our visitors. That's question one.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your suggestions as well. Perhaps we don't have it like timetable the way you package it, but certainly the unique experiences that you spoke to, we have, and what the Airbnb and Verbo type accommodation standard caused us to do was to ensure that people who visit Barbados and stay within the communities have an opportunity to experience the communities. But I take your point because I know that you have a particular event in your constituency. I believe you refer to it as a Crabby Night. And you also have the integration of visitors along with locals. And I believe that program, as a community project, is in part sponsored through the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. In respect of making it more meaningful, I do agree with you. I am of the view that in every parish that we are entering, we should have welcome signs. In addition to that, as we have the Barbados port, commonly known as the Bridgetown port, there is a Barbados sign. And if you were to see the number of tourists who gather around that area to have a photo opportunity, I think it speaks well for the destination. I am aware that the BTMI is currently undertaking some additional sites for my review. I have received one. I haven't moved on it yet because obviously we have to discuss it with another ministry, and we will do so. But what I will encourage and mandate the BTMI to do going forward is to engineer the appropriate welcome signs for each parish, but in working with the community to ensure that we have such signs. I think another opportunity exists where we can have Barbadian-based cultural, iconic statues and other replica positioned in Barbados for even more photo opportunities. This is something that has worked well in other destinations, and I have no doubt that we will do so. What I will do at this time, I'll pause, but I'll ask Ms. Marsha Aline again to give you some additional feedback on what we're going to be doing in this area and the strategy for the build-out of signage with respect to the tourism awareness campaign. Mrs. Aline?
Thank you, Minister, Honorable Member. I just wanted you to know that the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. has identified historic sites across the island, which we intend to erect as a historical location so persons can identify these various sites. I'm not at liberty to actually go into all of these sites at this particular moment because that matter is actually before our board in terms of the determination. But just to let you know that we have incorporated not just the actual location of these historical sites, which will give persons information on the historical happenings around that particular area, but also we've incorporated the electronic uses of QR codes, so that when persons are able to scan their their phones, the QR codes would take them to the actual story surrounding that particular area, so that they can actually have more information about Heritage Barbados. So that's one of the projects that certainly has our attention, that we're working on assiduously to ensure it's actually completed. In addition to that, we also have identified a number of iconic spots around the island where we'll be placing Barbados-type signage so that persons can actually have picture ops at iconic locations across the island. So we have taken note of both sets of signage. One would be iconic signage, and the other would be historical signage or informational signage, as is widely known. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should also speak to the fact that the Run Barbados Marathon as an iconic event, and I think we are celebrating, what, 30 years? I think we just celebrated our 30th year, if I'm not mistaken. Don't want to mislead the House. But it's also a unique one of the unique attractions that we package, certainly in your constituency of St. Andrew. And I was there last year for the Run Barbados Marathon and the Run Barbados events. And I must tell you that the visitors to the island thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a wide cross-section of visitors, including those from Latin America who were on island. And it was a wonderful occasion to see locals as well as tourists participating in all the lead-up events to the ultimate Run Barbados Marathon. So I think we have some of those experiences, and we will continue to build them out, as you've heard the officer from the BTMI articulate. Thank you.
All right. My second question, firstly, let me start by just saying that I'm glad to see that the numbers are up. I know that is in a large way because of the efforts of you and your team. We are seeing so many tourists on the ground today, and so many tourists in Barbados. But not so long ago, we would have been through the crisis that was COVID, and we have seen how that had impacted our numbers, how it had impacted our tourism industry. And all of the experts are saying that it's another crisis, whether it be a pandemic or some other occurrence, where natural occurrence are. I mean, we're in that part of the world where natural disaster is something that can occur anytime, any year, every year. Are there any, what we refer to sometimes as crisis management protocols or of any type that we are discussing within your ministry that would help us to respond in the event that we are impacted by some unforeseen event or some other kind of natural disaster, that we are in a position that we're not caught flat-footed like how we were back during the COVID crisis?
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. To answer your question regarding disaster, and I'll also talk about a little bit of resilience in this matter. The ministry, since I joined the ministry, and I'm sure before that, the ministry has been working with the BHDA. We are looking at, obviously, opportunities on how best we can mitigate any disasters. For example, we met last year under my chairmanship, again with the BHDA. And what we did was to set out a protocol that we want, an MOU rather, that we want to agree on. And it has to do, for example, in the event that there's a disaster at one particular hotel or two hotels or multiple hotels, to engage a framework how best we can accommodate those customers at another hotel, at another receiving hotel, to mitigate any further exposure or risks associated with that particular disaster. Discussions are ongoing. The BHD will be reverting to us very shortly with their plan. And the second thing had to do, obviously, in thinking about disaster management and risk planning. How do we therefore get visitors to our island to the airport in the event there's an emergency? That too has been worked on, and we anticipate very shortly that we'll be concluding that MOU. And essentially what it's doing is about having hoteliers and other members within the accommodation sector sharing resources in the event of a disaster. The other issue that we have to be mindful of, the whole issue of being resilient. Barbados, like all other countries, are prone to external shocks, and Barbados as a destination must ensure that we become resilient. We're working on, obviously, those pathways to resilience, and one of the issues that we're obviously working on, in fact, in January, the Permanent Secretary and other members of the team, BTMI, would have attended the Global Resilience Conference in Jamaica, hosted by the UN Tourism Office, formerly UNWTO, as well as the Mona campus of the University in Jamaica, and obviously the Ministry of Tourism in Jamaica. And we had an opportunity to see firsthand a number of initiatives that they have put in place for resilience. And the sharing of information, which they've agreed to share with us, certainly would help us in terms of building out additional resilience. We have to ensure that when it comes to our water supply, when it comes to accommodation, that we are, and other areas, and I'm not going to bore the Honorable Chairman with all those areas, but that become even more resilient. Resilience is also, building resilience is also an opportunity for us to ensure that we recover in the shortest possible time for any external shocks or any disasters that might come our way. So I can assure you, Honourable Member, that we are working on that resilience platform. You would have heard earlier from the presentation of members from the ministry speaking to the whole issue of the green economy and how we can factor in the green economy into resilience. So it is ongoing, and it is really top of mind for us because we cannot afford, in the event there's any shocks, God forbid, that we are not in a position to rebound in the shortest possible time. And because we are largely dependent on tourism, we even have to build greater resilience to avoid any fallout. Thank you. The Permanent Secretary wants to, Ms. Francine Blackman. Thank you.
To add further to Minister, the ministry also is working with CARFO, and what they are doing is taking the lessons learned, certainly also with the Ministry of Health, the lessons learned during COVID, certainly at a Caribbean regional wide, and developing protocols as well as guidelines that they are about to share with Caribbean governments to help them in terms of our response in the event of another pandemic. But in addition to looking at the climatic or pandemics, the ministry also, in terms of trying to mitigate our risks from an economic perspective, that's why we looked at diversifying the markets from which we have been trying to obtain our guests, our tourist arrivals. And that is one of the reasons that had underpinned our going into Latin America, as well as trying to seek out new markets from Africa, as well as from the Middle East, and which also therefore underpins the opportunity that we have in our discussions with a number of governments in that area. So in all, we have been trying to address and mitigate the risks from a climatic perspective, as well as from an economic one, in the discussions that we have been having with a number of our stakeholders and the different markets that we've been trying to push through in order to have Barbados's footprint now widen in these markets. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for me. I just want to, again, thank you. And I think I speak on behalf of a very grateful Barbados when I say thank you for the work that you've been doing, Minister, you and your team. Continue the good work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for St. Andrew. Honorable Member for St. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would have had that road signage. It's on, beg your pardon. I would have had that as my very first question, and I'm thankful that the Honourable Minister and his team have given some responses, because we know what it is like in Barbados. You want to go somewhere and you want to find where somebody say, go around that corner, go yonder, so. And it really frustrates even the locals. So it is a great idea that has been pursued, and I'm really extremely happy for the response that was given in relation to road signage. The only addition I wanted to it is to find out what are the synergies with other governmental institutions like the Public Works Ministry, or even the private sector, to be able to have it done, because there where I live and most of Barbados, it is extremely woefully lacking to get signage, the billboards and all that. So I'm happy that the Honourable Minister and his team have given questions, so I let that one just slip away, Mr. Chairman, sir. My question though, let me congratulate the Honourable Minister and his team. I almost forgot, I was waiting so long. Let me congratulate the Honourable Minister and his team for the excellent work that has been done. And I'm extremely pleased with a lot of what is in the pipeline. And I pray that we will continue to work together in this country to make a tremendous difference in the lives of our people, because we cannot be inviting visitors here and then have some challenges that we know we've had before, and one or two are still niggling. But at least what I'm hearing here today gives me the confidence that Barbados will be one of the premier countries in the Caribbean when it comes to attracting the visitors, as we see how our numbers have grown over the many months. So I want to thank the Honourable Minister for his leadership and the team. I also want, sir, though, for my question then to the Honourable Minister is to do with niggling problems that we hear visitors talk about. And this in particular is to do with, I call it the conveyor belt at the airport. And almost everybody who comes says, I had to wait for an hour or longer periods in order to get my luggage. Yes, we have increased in our numbers of flights and so on, but what plans are there in these estimates that will help me to better understand that there are plans for the upgrades so that the rest of the traveling public, meaning now those going in the international arena, will get an opportunity to hear? Because my name was given by Sir Don when he sang Ask Cynthia. I was a little girl then. I have fitted the profile, so everybody in Barbados calls me about everything. So I would just want the Honourable Minister and his team to indicate to us what plans there are, so it can allay some of the fears of the passengers and the other persons who are traveling or plan to travel, that they get a better understanding as to where we are and what we are doing in their own interest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and also on behalf of the team, let me also thank you for your commendation. In respect of the situation at the Grant Williams International Airport, it is a challenge that we inherited and a challenge that we intend to fix. I did indicate earlier that what we've done is that we sat down with the ground handlers of Barbados, GCG Ground, as well as Caribbean Aircraft Handling. Those are the two major ground handlers in Barbados. Obviously, there's an in-flight operation run by Inter-Caribbean for their aircraft. What we found was that we had an inordinate delay on some days with the baggage coming off the aircraft. We had meetings with the ground handling companies, and I'm pleased to say that they were present at all requested meetings. They were fully engaged. What we moved to, and of course the Prime Minister was also involved in the early stage in one discussion, but what we moved to was a situation where if they were unable to adhere to standard operating procedures, then they would we will have a statutory fine or we will have a consensual fine. So with the mandate given to us, we were able to meet with the ground handlers. We had very cordial meetings with them, but we agreed to certain standards. For example, from the time an aircraft touches down at Grant Williams International Airport, it comes to the gate, the beacon light, which is the red light on top of the aircraft, is switched off. Then there's a process that has to commence, and I'll leave the technical experts to elaborate when it's referred to Mr. Hadley Bourne and Mr. Lemuel Padmore. So we took a series of steps commencing from the time of arrival of the aircraft until the first bag is delivered to the back area where customs must do the inspections before the bag is then sent through to the arrivals hall for the guests. On that occasion, we went through those procedures. I'm happy to say that we had agreement, and whereas we had significant delays in the past, if you were coming through Grant Williams International Airport anytime around December 23rd, you were seeing the greater efficiencies that we've been able to make there. And in fact, the customers have been commending the Grand Islands International Airport team and the ground handlers for the work they do. I must tell you that there's some aircraft when they land in Barbados, because if they do not prioritize bags, such as the premium bags or the first or business class bags, those bags sometimes are packed in a way that would not allow those to become the first bags. If the aircraft from its original point, its original destination, if they pack the aircraft the way they're meant to, then the first bags off will be the premium bags. So we have time standards. For example, the first, depending on the type of aircraft, we have a commitment, say within 15 minutes, then the first bag must be in the arrivals hall. I'll ask like I said, the CEO and Mr. Lemuel Padmore to walk you through that process. The other good thing about that, because there are penalties attached, we refer to them as consensual fines, the ground handlers are now incentivized to ensure that they meet the standard. The other issue is that the airline, obviously an aircraft, once it's here, it's landed here, it has a turnaround period. Sometimes an aircraft may have, if it's a long haul carrier, may say 2 hours. But if you have what we call a short haul route, like say going to Miami or New York, you have to turn around that aircraft within 1 hour. So you have to, sometimes if you have a plane of approximately 200 persons, and you have 2 or 3 pieces, you can imagine you coming close to 1,000 bags if you have 3, or maybe 400 or 500 bags, depends on the average. So they're duty bound to turn around that aircraft within their service agreement contracts with the airlines, and therefore they also have that duty. What we also did is that there are some steps that we were practicing or following, I should say, in the past that we no longer follow. For example, port health. We no longer have to wait on port health to knock on the door of the aircraft and to receive the information. That information is being transmitted, and I want to say thanks to the Ministry of Health for ensuring that became a reality, and that is working well. We fine-tune other processes within the ground handling operations in the Grand Islands International Airport. What we also have is that we have a report on a daily basis, which is submitted to the Grand Islands International Airport and forwarded into the ministry, and it's also consolidated weekly and monthly. What that does, it tells us, for example, are the ground handlers meeting the standard? And if they're not meeting the standard, what was the delay and what caused it? And of course, the associated fines for failing to meet the standard. So the standards are documented, but like I said, I'll pause and I'll allow Mr. Lemuel Padmore as well as Mr. Halliburn to give you further details on the system and the improvements to the system. And I must tell you, as a traveler, and it's not that they have my bag marked with any special marking, but I can tell you that as a traveler, I have seen an improvement in the system, and it's going in the right direction. I'll defer to Mr. Padmore and Mr. Halliburn. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, I heard your deference, but this question was posed last week and dealt with. So, and in the interest of time, I think that we should proceed to the next question. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to be Her Honor, Mr. Speaker, asked the question. So as an officer, a host like you, I felt it appropriate to give her some background. Perhaps she would have been busy attending to other matters of state. So I don't know if you still want that to happen, but I will abide by your ruling, sir.
Yes,
because this is your house.
You have given
I'm in your house, sir.
You have given a quite detailed response, and I want to ensure that the member is able to ask her next 2 questions, and then we have one more member from for St. Michael West, and we have a particular cutoff time as we are off our. So I will move the next honorable member St. Thomas. You can move to your next question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll be able to get that information, otherwise I'm sure. The final question, though, in the interest of time, would be associated with, again, I'm saying synergies, because I'm talking now the Ministry of Tourism in association with Youth Affairs and Culture, Elder Affairs, I cannot leave that out, sir, and so on, to find out about the synergies. I live in a constituency that has so many areas of interest. Some of them really need to get some professional assistance, some funding and all that. And in the light that we are now attracting so many other thousands of visitors to the island, I think our tourism project would expand if assistance is offered in that respect. I remember distinctly in the early 1980s, 1982 to be exact, every parish in Barbados had a festival. St. Thomas Festival in particular, I was the chairperson, so I remember very well. And we were able to attract both locals and scores of tourists or visitors to the island to be able to be entertained and to get accustomed to what our cultural heritage is like. And I want to indicate then, sir, the various communities I have in St. Thomas. I say I have because that's where I live. And I've been born there and went to school there. So in the community of St. Thomas, there are so many areas that I would really wish to see more done beyond Harrison's Cave, which we know is now one of the premier locations on the island. The Flower Forest, Barbados and Bounding, St. Joseph, Mount Hillaby, that I would have made a formal request to the BTMI at that time, more than 10 years ago, for a simple bathroom location. Because visitors come down on the east, on the west coast, and so they have a beverage down in whole town, then they stop off at another location. By the time they get there, there's no washroom facility unless one is being done now. The road conditions are bad, but this is not this honorable minister's responsibility. It is really one that I will really pursue further, because the honorable member for St. Andrew and myself, we share the residents who live on either side of that road. But that is one I will tackle with the other minister. But the point I'm making is Mount Hillaby has got a pristine view of the East Coast. But then it becomes so overgrown with bush and all that. We beg MTW because their hands are tied. We beg Ministry of Public Works to help us to cut down the trees. Sometimes the residents themselves go. But people trek and go to Mount Hillaby. They say, I want to see the highest point in Barbados. And as a result, we do not want residents and locals to be traversing that area. And then because of the overgrowth of the bush, we know sometimes how some young people are so inclined to want to snatch a wallet or to do something silly. And therefore, I want to know what plans does that ministry have in helping us to be able to upgrade Mount Hillaby. That is one of the best locations all tourists come to say, I want to visit. The other part of that, sir, is to do with the Rock Hall Freedom Village, where we've got plans there and have had plans for a while. The change of government at the time had caused some setbacks, but we want for that Freedom Village to come to conclusion. We want, therefore, for the plans we have in the making to be able to have tour guides as part of what we're doing, and persons traversing from the monument area over to St. Thomas Parish Church that is so many centuries old, over to Portvale Factory, come through Pori Spring, where the water is flowing incessantly. And then, of course, Fortress Hill is on the hill. It wasn't just called Fortress Hill for a joke. It is because you could stay there and that view gave you everything that's on the east, on the west coast of Barbados. And then we have the Duke's Bridge. We have the vault in the Vault Road, the Williams Vault. We have Springvale. We have Earthworks. And we had the heart of Barbados that really tears away my heart for what I saw happening from the heart of Barbados before. And now what has happened as a result. Queue in the community was there on Thursday night. I could not pass to get to my house, sir, because people were so happy to be there, but it was more than that. They had market day, they had road races, running races, walking races in the past. They had locals who were given an opportunity with UNESCO to be able to form a group called Youth Path, and they got international assistance with it. All of that went dead with the change of a government again, as well as COVID kicking in. I want to know how will the Ministry of Tourism assist us in St. Thomas and by extension St. Joseph, St. Andrew, to be able to get some of those projects going, because we think that it can make a difference and add flavor to the sites and services that will be offered to our visitors, and more particularly for me, our locals, especially our senior citizens, who when they get a ride over to those particular locations, it brings back memories to them, and it gives them that hope that Barbados is still yet alive and catering for people of all ages and all walks of life, including the visitors who come with her. So generally, that is my question in a nutshell, and I would wish to hear what plans there are beyond Shaka and the other areas. And the final thing I wanted to say, chattel houses are again still on the island. And I know that there are some beautiful charter houses. If we could get the Ministry of Tourism partnering with us for that village called Rock Hall.
Yes,
with the Freedom Villages.
Remember, if you can, if you
I'm
get the
gonna
minister-
wrap up now, Mr.
Wrap up.
Speaker, sir, and you, Mr. Chairman, sir, and you know that I would talk, but I would say something meaningful. So I just wanted to say, chattel houses across St. Thomas and the island, if they can have some kind of assistance in helping to upgrade them or putting on signage on them, because that is our history that I believe should be upgraded or to be bestowed so that our young generations can understand from whence we have come and therefore be able to be better educated as to where we are going because of the wall structures and so that now have taken over our landscape. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and thank you for your very insightful views as it relates to St. Thomas. You have proffered at least 6 suggestions and locations where I believe we can make some meaningful progress. I'm told that the road to Mount Hillaby was recently paved, so we start with that in terms that we have a paved road, and I do support. One of the, in terms of how do we construct and get at least those 6 areas that you've highlighted into not only community, but to become more entrepreneurial, including the gullies that you have in that area. And I believe the time has come for the mandate of the Caves of Barbados to be fine-tuned, and therefore, when I confer with the Permanent Secretary, and obviously with the board of the Caves of Barbados, I believe that this is an opportunity for them to engineer some progress to ensure that, like for example, Mount Hillaby, that you have a welcoming visitor experience with the appropriate amenities needed for visitors and locals alike who go to that area. So I give you my word that I will mandate both from this honorable chamber, and they're here with me today, the Caves of Barbados Limited and the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. to one, undertake a tour with you, because you know that area better than most. One, to identify the locations, to give an assessment of what is required in those areas, and that they shall report to me within 4 weeks of today's sitting with a plan. The Marsha Aline, who leads the product side, as well as the CEO of the Caves, who is here with us today, that they should meet. And once we have that initial document, I will then convene a meeting with the board of the Caves of Barbados to ensure that they understand the pathway to us accomplishing what you've identified. It is good for us because it also helps us to build out our tourism and to also give other options as attractions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for St. Michael West.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to the Honorable Minister and team. I would like to join in the numerous sentiments this morning, commending you, Honorable Minister, in a job well done in bringing back our bread and butter industry. Now, the economic impact of tourism cannot be understated here. Not only does it contribute to foreign direct investment and direct employment, but it also contributes to our wider economy in the procurement of goods and services. For context, let us go back to the dark days of COVID. And as I am not a minister, I'm a backbencher, I have a day job. And I could tell you that on that fateful Friday, when the acting prime minister announced that the country was shutting down, I had trucks on the road going to the supermarkets, and I was fielding calls from those supermarkets telling me, send them back. All the goods were coming back, going back into the fridge. And I could tell you that other companies, permit me, Mr. Chair, for calling some of the names, like Chickmont and these, had chickens piling up in Baiko. They had to freeze them and keep them. Nowhere to go. Supermarkets were shut. And for context, this government made the decision in the dark days of COVID to allow those cruise ships to dock off our shores. Now, let me tell you, at that time, with produce spoiling, chickens piling up in the fridges, those cruise ships acted as floating hotels and allowed companies like Chickmont, like my company, like Massey, like Bryden's, who hire people. And the people that they hire benefit from the tourism industry. And as that industry was essentially closed because of COVID, that decision allowed people to come and work for that week when times were very uncertain. I can tell you, I was on the docks working. I was very grateful. And Chair, that is what governing is about. And that is what this government is about, making decisions that benefit this country, even in its darkest days. In addition, it put Barbados on the map as a moral authority. I don't know if you guys can remember, but at that time, you could pretty much say that the people that were on those cruise ships were like lepers. The boy didn't want them. But we made the decision that Barbados was going to be the moral authority in this world, on this globe, on this planet, that we were going to take these cruise ships. Yes, it benefited us at that time in that we were able to keep people working. And I want to commend the Ministry of Tourism and the Barbados Port Inc. for playing its part in anchoring this country in its darkest hour. So, sir, we sowed the seed to reap the need. And some would say that we have somewhat of a problem, a good problem, where now, because of our overtures to the cruise industry, we now have more business than we can handle. So we got a lot of cruise ships that are now home porting in Barbados. Now this leads me to my first question. And as such, as I told you earlier, my business is procurement. So I use the port a lot. I'm probably one of the biggest customers. So, sir, I'm not sure if you're aware, but during the Christmas holidays when the cruise industry was booming, and it still is, the port would have had some issues with cruise liners and cargo ships. Now, I know that the port has a plan to expand the berths to allow for both to coexist seamlessly. Now, this is important because the Honorable Prime Minister, in seeking to position Barbados as a world-class destination for tourism and for business, we need the Bridgetown port, obviously, to be positioned such that it can handle Barbados to become a hub for the South-South, which is South America, Africa. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the minister and his team in positioning Barbados to take new risks and go out into the market to attract new tourists. But my question specifically is, can you outline the plans by the port to be able to handle the load? Because yes, we want as many cruise passengers as we can get, but we don't want to forget Barbadians, and the fact that they still have to go into the supermarkets at a time when climate change is affecting agricultural produce. And if you want to position Barbados as a global trading hub, we need to have a port that can accommodate both.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and thank you for your kind words as well. And let me also associate the Ministry's thanks to the workers at the Bridgetown Port and indeed Immigration, Customs, and all other stakeholders. You're quite right. It is always a challenge when you have cruise ships competing for the same space. We are becoming a victim of our own success. This year, we will have about 400 plus cruise ships sailing into the Bridgetown Port. And next year, there are bigger plans. The other issue that we are faced with is that we have smaller luxury boutique-style yachts that are coming to Barbados. For example, the Ritz-Carlton will be continuing for a third season, and the Four Seasons, we should have that yacht in Barbados for the 2025 season. So as we build out the investment, like I indicated, we spent in addition of $100 million, where we're spending approximately $108 million, I believe the exact figures, in Berth 6. We have to continually build out the port, but obviously, as you would imagine, anything associated with marine is a lot of money. And we also have a duty to protect the port's balance sheet, notwithstanding the capital outlay. Obviously, we will continue to work with some of our key partners. I was in Miami just last Tuesday, a meeting with 4 presidents of 4 cruise lines. We met with the president of Oceania, Silversea, Celebrity, and Royal Caribbean. And those companies also expressed an interest in any future investment that we would have, are willing to undertake. We can submit a proposal. But we have to build out, Honourable Member, and we will endeavour to do so.
Thank you, Minister. Now, I want to add that I look forward to the day when our tourism numbers would have exceeded pre-COVID numbers. I see it as like when I was watching Sports Center the other day and LeBron exceeded 40,000 points. And I can't wait for the day to hear when we have exceeded, whatever that number is, the arrivals of 2019. But to my next question, I see that the stated strategic goals of the ministry is to work with the Statistical Service to be able to accurately and fully measure the contribution of this industry, which obviously has far-reaching effects for these shores. And to quote your words, Minister, that you want to see a pouring down of the benefits and not a trickling down. So obviously all these plans to beef up community tourism, I want to commend you on getting more active participation of alternative tours and ensuring that taxis are able to benefit fully. How do we fully measure the impact of all of these tremendous and wonderful things? Can you describe the framework, the methodology to be able to measure?
Thank you, Honourable Member. We have a research department within the BTMI. That department works very closely with the Barbados Statistical Service. We are going to continue to endeavour that work with them. We are building out additional platforms in terms of electronic collection of data and doubling with some aspects of data analytics as well. As I indicated, it is important for us as a ministry to be working with data. Take, for example, today at the Bridgetown Port, we have 4 cruise ships, 8,000 passengers. This summer, we will have 24 vessel calls at the port with approximately 50,000 passengers. Next year, on the books so far, We have 22 ships coming in this summer with approximately 45,000 passengers. And part of my trip last Tuesday in the United States to meet with the cruise operators is to continuously build out our capacity so that we have a very busy summer and to return to what we are accustomed to. Post-COVID, it looks very positive, and the fact that if we can have 50,000 passengers, just using that as an example, or even today in the Bridgetown port, we have 4 vessels, 8,000 cruise passengers. We must be able to use data analytics to inform further decision making. We work very closely with the cruise ships to get information. They share information with us. That's what helps us to build out our strategies, and we will continue to do that. So I take your point. It is critical, and like I say, we will continue within the BTM and the ministry to build up that architecture, choice architecture. But beyond that, we will continue to work with the statistical service. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I am aware of my position in the Bahana or the chair, but I just have one last question to ask of the good minister. So it would be remiss of me if I did not go here as the chairman of Barbados Tourism and Investment, Inc. Regarding the comments made by the leader of the opposition as it pertains to the hotels and Sam Lord specifically. Minister, I can say that when we first came into government in 2018, that Sam Lord was in the ground. And as you would know, we faced numerous challenges with COVID, ash, freak storm that caused us to shut down that site on numerous occasions. In addition to that, going through all of those challenges, we also came and saw a project that had 54 acres to one hotel. But the cabinet, including you, Minister, agreed to split that site in 2, where now we kept the same amount of rooms, 422 rooms for Sam Lords, but the other half of the property is earmarked for another hotel. So we got a 2-for-1. So in essence, 25 acres and 27 acres, I would believe. So in essence, that is what this government has done. So Minister, in my question, I want to know how comfortable are you with the hotel plants on island, bearing in mind Sam Lords, Indigo, and Pendry, that's going to be on the North Coast.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. And that's why I made the point earlier to the Leader of the Opposition. It is important that you have persons who can execute. And like I referred to him, that they had Gall, lost Gall. They brought Avianca, lost it. They lost Delta, and they lost New York Run, and we brought them back. So I'm with you that you were able to take it from what would normally be called in economic language a green field. And you've now made that a productive field, earning substantial revenue for the country and, of course, much needed foreign exchange. So thank you for that. With respect to the hotel plant in Barbados, there is, and I made the comments in my opening remarks and later during questions, there is a need for not only improvement in the quality. What we're hearing from the travel trade is that we need to have hotels that reflect maybe a higher standard. As you well know, Barbados and certain segments is not necessarily an affordable destination on the coastline. It is affordable elsewhere. But we pride ourselves in having the benefit of having what we call high-end luxury properties and also affordable properties. And we have to build out our infrastructure. That therefore requires us to ensure that there's a retention or a sinking fund. It also requires the hotel companies to start looking at their competitive set and to see how best they can compete with their competitive set. That is ongoing, and I will encourage them. We have, through legislation, a number of concessions through the Tourism Development Act and through the Tourism Development Act as amended. And therefore, we have the architecture and the institutional framework for them to make the decision. Coming out of COVID, some might argue that it will take them a little more time, but the opportunity for us to reinvest in the plan is now, and I support your comments that they should get on with the business of improving their hotel plans because it will redound to them. And the one last comment I'll make, based on my former life and love for the sector, anytime you make a capital improvement in respect of a hotel plant, you will always see increasing occupancy as well as a flow through to the bottom line. In other words, you will make some good money and profit, and the workers also get to benefit. So on that point, I think that's something that we will continue to work with the accommodation sector to build up.
Thank you, Minister. Just a clarification, the second site is 17 acres for tourism development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for St. Michael West. We have already acknowledged the delegation from the House of Commons and the Canadian Senate, and we trust that you certainly enjoyed the discussion that you witnessed here today. Honorable Minister, you will now have your opportunity to wrap up, but before you do, I want to, through you, remind the chairman of the of the Port Authority, the CEO of Barbados Port Inc., of the promise to restore the lighthouse at Harrison Point 1 year ago, and I trust you didn't have it in the estimates then. I hope you have it in the estimates now, because if you're looking for more sites and places to take the tourists, you have a lot of tourists here, then that lighthouse must get some attention, similar to the St. Philip Lighthouse that got attention. Thank you very much, Minister. You may wrap up, or you may give the opportunity to the CEO maybe to respond.
Before I wrap up, I will ask him that he respectfully address the chairman of the House Standing Committee, Mr. John Marie.
We will refurbish the lighthouse during the coming year. Once we have the leases from the Ministry of Housing and Lands all sorted out.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you may wrap up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all honorable members of this chamber, the various officers, and members, of course, of my ministry's team, without whom the whole exercise would not have been at all possible. During the past two sessions of debate, I think it's fair to say that they have helped and contributed to the quality of debate, and therefore they are to be commended. Mr. Chairman, you recall that my observing the highly and competitive nature of the international tourism market. And for us, it is not about rest, it's not about sleep, it's about continued work and performance. I wish also to indicate that we've had the good fortune and blessing that we will have a locally grown Chief Executive Officer coming into the role of Chief Executive Officer effective April 1, and to be accompanied by a Chief Operating Officer on the same date. It's therefore incumbent upon me to express my gratitude to them. They are going to be undertaking a role and certainly responsibilities, which in my judgment will cause them to flourish and for the country to even enjoy greater benefits. We've laid a great platform in Barbados for the future growth of tourism, and I'm very mindful of that. And again, I say thank you to the team. I cannot help but also express my ambition to transform this sector from what people call, or the so-called acceptance of a trickle-down economic model, to a pouring down and through economic model. And we are fully committed to our crucial national duty and certainly our obligation within the tourism sector. So I give all members of this chamber, as long as I continue as Minister of Tourism, International Transport, that we will endeavor to continually reposition Barbados. Our strategy has yielded significant dividends, and we will continue to do so. And with those few words, I'm obliged to you, and I beg to move the Head 27 stamp part. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a second.
The question is that head 27 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I beg to move that you do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg leave to sit again.
The question is that I do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg for leave to sit again. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The Chairman has reported progress and requests leave to sit again. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until tomorrow, the 5th of March at 10 a.m.
Beg second.
The question is that this Honorable Chairman be suspended until Tuesday, the 5th day of March, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This Honorable Chairman stands suspended until tomorrow, Tuesday, 5th day of March, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.